Hey guys, it's been a while since I've done a video, so thought, well, good a time as any to get one done during all this weather. So what I want to talk to you about today is I'm going to do a little review, overview, and demonstration of one of the more expensive upgrades I've done to this airplane since I've owned it, and that is the elimination of the vacuum system in the installation of digital attitude and directional indication. So I'm going to show you what I've got in here. So what I did is I installed the UAV AV30s into here, and just talk for a minute about how that went. So basically, UAV puts out a 3-inch display called the AV30, and it's been out for a couple of years. The certified version came out, I want to say, about a year and a half ago. As far as installation goes, went very smoothly. Obviously, the hardest part was actually removing the vacuum system. So that required taking out the vacuum pump, the line, removing the bulkhead fitting, capping the firewall off there, the removal of the regulator, the filter, all the hoses, and the directional gyro and the attitude indicator. That was probably a day's worth of work right there, just getting all that out. That being said, the difference between the installation of the AV30s and the removal of the vacuum system, I basically saved about, oh boy, I gotta go back and look, but I think it was about 15.7 pounds that I eliminated. So that 15.7 pounds is kind of substantial, and it would be more effective in this plane if I didn't probably put 15.7 pounds on here. So I guess I'm back to square one. Probably put 15 pounds on here in the last few years, eliminated 15 pounds, so, you know, I'm not going to really notice anything. But having 15 pounds here and that, well, yeah. So anyway, that makes sense. The removal of the vacuum system, I don't want to get into legalities here and possible interpretations of how the regulations work, but basically it's a separate process to remove the vacuum system from your plane as opposed to the installation of the AV30s. That said, it may require another 337 form to submit for the removal of it, should you go that route. Like I said, I'm not getting into any legality issues here, but anyway, so two separate things: the removal of the vacuum system and the installation of the AV30s. Now, you aren't going to be removing the vacuum system if you're just replacing one of your instruments. For instance, most people want to have the attitude indicator replaced, which would just be removing a couple of lines and capping off, a little bit of rerouting in there, but you'd be leaving the vacuum pump and everything else in there to drive the directional gyro. So, but if you're like me, it's like, I don't want the upkeep of a vacuum pump going out and a gyro going out. I just did both of them. What can these units do? Well, they're jam-packed. They actually have a lot going on in that little unit. Your primary indication, you can have attitude indication, your primary direction indication. It's got a probeless angle of attack indicator. You can hook it up for outside air temperature. It can display your density altitudes and all that other stuff in there as well. Now, what I did on mine is I linked my iFly GPS to my directional gyro alone to provide a repeater display for direction and indication. The pneumatic fittings I have just going in for airspeed and altitude information is just into the attitude indicator. So this is just directional information, and this is just attitude indication with showing your altitude and some other stuff on there. Pretty simple depending on your unit to hook up. It's a little bit of one wire running from your GPS into there. Works extremely good. No problems with that. Now let's talk for just a minute about a couple quick pros and cons. Pros to this system: no vacuum system anymore. No maintenance, no filter over changes, no vacuum pumps going out, one less moving part. I think much more precise, a lot more information packed into there. I think that's a big safety factor. It kind of gives you a backup altimeter. The angle of attack is great. The price is good compared to a G5. And this unit uses your existing cutout. So you don't have to cut the panel out for a square unit like the G5 or some of the other units out there. This uses your existing instrument cutout. So it leaves it very clean, no panel modifications or anything of that nature. Another plus, it eliminated the vacuum gauge. So now I'm able to have my cylinder head temperature in here in place of where the vacuum gauge was. So that's a plus. Freed me up one more spot in my panel for that. The repeater display from the GPS, that's very beneficial. So, you know, well, what good is having a repeater display from when you got the GPS right there? Well, a couple of things. If you're on the GPS and you're looking up airport information or you're doing something else, you still have your primary direction, bearings, and all that other stuff indicated there, so that if your GPS is down for a period of time doing something else, you're still following that. I also like the waypoint setting on it. So basically, if I load in a flight plan of some sort, it's showing that from waypoint to waypoint. Really good doing practice instrument work, stuff like that. Drawbacks. It is IFR certified for primary attitude and primary directional information only. You can't use it for the repeater display aspect of it. You can't use it. It's not certified to use for that from your GPS. That part of it is not certified for instrument use. Other weak link, the directional gyro. Now I say that with a lot of hesitancy because there's been a lot of changes around this. When this directional gyro first came out, when I first started using it, it was bizarre. It was like there'd be one flight I would go and it would hold that heading like with very little precision. And then the next flight I go on, I mean, within 15 minutes, it's 30, 40 degrees precise, which is worthless in my opinion. I mean, you just can't use that. Now I use it mostly with the repeater, so it's kind of non-issue. But when it was first coming up was when I was doing a flight review and I needed to go on to the directional gyro itself for maneuvers, you know, 360 turns, this kind of stuff, or you can't use GPS for that kind of maneuver. And that was when I was noticing, you know, man, I'm rolling out, I'm on heading according to the indicator, but my nose isn't where it was. And so they came out with the first update, which I'd say it cut the problems in half. Then they came out with a second update, which has a new calibration setting on it. And then there is also another update that uses the internal magnometer. I think new units are shipping with that already fixed. If you have an older unit, you got to send it back in and have that hardware part done, and then you get it back and you do this reset up. I have not decided to send my units back in to have that done, simply because I don't use it enough for that. And with the first update I did with the software, I was getting some pretty stinking accurate readings. So just haven't felt up to it. Now I've done another update on both units, so we're going to go out here and fly and see how it does. And I'm going to get to show you the units, what they look like, what they do, and then we'll take a look and see how that setting is performing without having to send the units back in to have it redone with the internal magnometer. So I'm going to get the plane ready. We're going to go fly. All right, so we're going to go ahead and fire it up. All right, and as you can see, the displays are very, very clear. So it is really windy out today. In fact, it's right on the edge of where you don't really want to go flying anymore. So I'll adjust this down, and it holds my altitude pretty good. So let me check out.
At 2,000, overcast at 2,400. Temperature 8 Celsius. Dew point 5 Celsius. Altimeter 2,993 inches of mercury.
So there we go, 2,993.
Morristown Moore Mural Airport.
Okay.
Weather observation 1802 Zulu. Wind 260 at 10 knots. Visibility more than 10.
All right, so yeah, it's a little windy. So this is set, turn the altimeter, or the alternator on, and you can see it displays my bus voltage, which is great. Cylinder head's coming up there. And then I'm gonna go ahead and set this, so it looks like it's around 255 magnetic because of the amount of wind today. So 255. And we're just going to compare it to the magnetic compass and see how it performs. All right, so a couple things to note. You've got all kinds of different settings in here of how you can make this thing display. It's all very customizable, but I can just set it for just a normal, very plain attitude indicator, or the one with all my information on it. So what we're going to do is when we take off, we get lined up with the runway, I'm going to put the heading bug down here exactly in front, and then we're going to fly and see how bad it is off or not off when we get back in. So my GPS is now fired up. So if I hit this, this is showing, this is my repeater display. With cross-track error, you could customize some of that. I've just got it set for track, bearing, and what the ground speed is. This is arc mode. This is nice, kind of like a little moving map, shows you where you're at. You could adjust the scales of it and all of that. And, of course, I could flip over to another attitude indicator, which you really don't use. And I'm going to get lined up with the runway, and then we're going to set this heading bug. Okay.
right down here. Alright, we'll see what it is. So, this is a great little unit. I'll talk about it a little bit more as I'm taking off and flying. And well, here we go. Airspeed's alive on the indicator. Wind's hanging pretty close down the runway, ain't too bad. Definitely a little bumpy. I don't want to mess with cameras too much during takeoff phase. You can hear that. That's where I was getting a little bit high angle of attack there. Mostly updraft condition there, I had big updraft. So you can see there, airspeed's displayed. You can see the angle of attack there. It's very bumpy, so. It is pretty instant. Also has a slip indicator down there. Battery status. Let's talk about it for a minute. So one good thing about this unit is in the event, it's got an internal battery as well, so in the event of a power failure, you got about 30 minutes of backup attitude indication. So hopefully within that 30 minutes you can get out. Now how does that work? Well, basically, so long as it's got airspeed, air pressure into the unit, where it detects you're flying, and the unit powers down, it's going to stay on battery backup. Now when you're on the ground and power goes off and there's no airspeed, the unit can power down. You can also override that shutdown just by pressing any button when the so we're just going to adjust that a little bit there, but we are kind of high. So anyway, so far, I mean, it looks like it's holding, so we're just going to go out here and mess around a little bit. Do some maneuvers. We got, like I said, really good crosswind conditions. So we'll see how the directional unit does with that. Also, you could set all kinds of audio alerts. It has audio out. You can tie it into your intercom system so that you can hear alerts, and you can set those alerts for different parameters. For instance, I will do a roll here, and you'll hear the roll. So that's pretty good. It's the same thing with pitch.
Check angle, check angle, check angle, check.
It was showing that angle of attack coming up there into the red. It also has G alerts you could set. It's got an internal G meter. So yeah, it's very windy today. Very windy, very bumpy. So we're just going to go out here, fly around a little bit, come back in, see how it's holding. Let me show you the now there's the repeater display. So it's showing, you know, the direction to the airport there. Okay, looking at the clock, I think I was closer to about 45 minutes. I was out kind of gallivanting around looking at property and stuff. Definitely windy. Woo-hoo. No flaps today, don't need that. All right. That was fun. Okay. So, taking a look at this, it's pretty close. Looks like maybe it's off. We were at 246 is where it is at, and to get it back on, let's see here. It moved about 8 degrees. 8 degrees in about 45 minutes, which, like I said, it's better. Today was very challenging with the wind and being jostled around. It'd probably do better on a day that it's a lot calmer. But, again, you know, I think that's the weak point on it. In my opinion, if you're going to be doing IFR with it or be relying upon that, I would make sure that I got that internal magnometer calibrated, set up, you know, make sure that's set up from the factory, because I think that is the weak link in the system.
Okay, so just a recap. It's a big improvement. It was extremely windy, very bumpy. Like there wasn't a moment of it sitting still. So, but I think that's like extreme conditions. Probably be pretty close. My guess is if I wouldn't have had all that, but 8 degrees and 45 minutes is, it's marginal. So, you know, workable but marginal. Other than that, after flying behind it for over a year now, or longer, with other units, I'm impressed with them. They're good for the price. You save money using them. You save a lot of installation costs using them. The other big factor is customer support. Avionics is a lot younger than Garmin or some of the other ones, but in the early stages with Avionics, especially when ADS-B out just came out, they were swamped and they had some bumps. Lately though, customer service has been great whenever I've had a question or an issue, because I got a lot of Avionics stuff, not just these 2 units. They've been great to work with. So I think their customer service is pretty good right now, at least in my experience. It's been good. In fact, it's been so good, they've sent me things as loaners just to try out to see if it works. One of the things that they came out with is what they call AV-Link, and it's this little adapter that goes on the back side of the unit. So basically your wiring harness going into the unit, you unplug it, plug this adapter, and then plug your wiring harness, and it makes your AV30 Wi-Fi compatible. Great for updates. It can also get ADS-B information to display traffic, and then they got a lot of other integrations with that. They sent me one just to try out and see if I liked it, to update my units and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, I appreciate that. Again, I think the biggest drawback is the directional gyro, but that may be fixable with the new units that are coming out. That may be a thing of the past anyway, so I don't, you know, I want to make that the reason not to get them. Autopilot integration isn't there yet, so if you need your directional gyro to autopilot or your attitude indicator to autopilot, that's going to be a problem right now. But for the little Cessna 150, it's a lot of bang for your buck. Can't speak well enough of them. I think it's a good thing to do if you want to bring some modern technology to your aging cockpit. without spending a fortune. So outside of a GPS, I think it's probably the best thing that you can do. A lot of safety integrations, a lot of information displayed, a lot less maintenance. And once that initial cost is out of the way, I think, you know, there's so little to do with it. So anyway, hey, thanks for watching, guys. I got more videos coming out here soon. Got a lot more reviews to do on different things I've done to the airplane. Some more flying. I can't get over how this little itty bitty channel that I haven't put a lot of effort into is growing, and I'd like to see it grow. I think there's a lot of interest in these little airplanes. They're one of the most accessible aircraft out there to the general public, and I think they're underrated. So, all right, well, thanks again for watching. We'll see you next time.